Welcome, wrestling fans. Welcome to Curtain Jerkin. As always, I'm your host, Jacob Grondy, reporting for the Main Event Marks YouTube channel and the Dragon Suplex Podcasting Network. This is my first podcast in 2022, guys. It's been a wild road. I am doing 75 hard, so no alcohol, no weed, reading 10 pages of a book a day, working out for 90 minutes a day, drinking a gallon of water. It's wild. It's fun, but it is time consuming. I am squeezing in some wrestling, but squeezing in wrestling, squeezing in my job, and also finding time to record is looking like it's going to get down to maybe once a week instead of maybe like every how often did it, like every 5 days or so. So sometimes there'd be twice a week. It looks like it's going to get back to maybe once a week for you guys. Hopefully that works for you guys. It's working for me. Hopefully you guys can let me know about 75 hard. Are there anybody that listens to this podcast that is doing 75 hard or has done 75 hard? Let me know. We're going to be talking about Wrestle Kingdom, of course. We're going to be talking about WWE Releases. We're going to be talking about New Year's Eve of NXT, WWE Day 1, Noah, Rampage. Let's go into Rampage, guys, because it's coming up again. It's almost been a full week since we've talked, and that means that we haven't talked about Rampage yet. There was this tag team women's match that got some buzz. I enjoyed the hell out of it. Bunny and Penelope Ford versus Anna Jay and Ty Conti. It was a hardcore match. There's two elements of wrestling I've always enjoyed, and that's attractive women and crazy matches, and this was a crazy match full of attractive women, so why wouldn't you like it? There was blood with ladies and everything. I remember back in the day on Nitro, they would do lucha hardcore matches, and that was like a big deal, and they would have Psychosis and La Parka and Silver King all jumping at each other, hitting each other with chairs and shit. And that was crazy because it blended two styles. So you get this kind of diva-esque, division in AEW Women's Division now. And then you also have the hardcore element that AEW likes to play into as well. And it worked. It worked for me. I was entertained. It was a spectacle. The spots, some of them didn't work. Like Penelope Ford doing that moonsault off the top, didn't break through the table at all. But I mean, they're two smaller bodies. It might not break through a table. But I enjoyed the hell out of it. I also enjoyed Noah. Noah had a show January 1st. Keno and Kiyomiya for the GHC National Championship match. These matches are really fucking good. If New Japan isn't doing it for you, or if AEW or WWE isn't doing it for you, look out for Noah. It's really, really good wrestling. They just recently added English commentary, and this Kinu versus Kiyomiya match was amazing. The ending had to be stopped by a ref. Kiyomiya got knocked the fuck out. GHC National Champion Kino. We were going to later see Kino at Wrestle Kingdom, which is a pretty big deal. We'll get to that a little later. That wasn't the only match that's kind of stood out for me. The main event stood out for me as well. Nakajima versus Go Shiozaki. Go Shiozaki was the champion right when I started following Noah, I guess a little bit less than a year ago, where Muta took it from Go Shiozaki. He had been injured. He's come back. And Nakajima had been kind of wrestling throughout this whole time. So I know Nakajima. I've seen him wrestle. Go Shiozaki, he's got a lot of hype. But, someone who, like me, just started watching because they found out Muta was the champion. And they wanted to tune in for nostalgia. They ended up getting hooked, which I think is what they wanted. Probably doesn't know Go Shiozaki as much as we should. This was for the GHC Heavyweight Championship. So, the title that Muta did hold. The title that Kojima held. Sorry, not Kojima, Marufuji. I'm getting tongue twisted and everything here. Emerald Flosion, though, Misawa's move in Noah, which is a big deal. Even people like me should know that Misawa left All Japan Pro Wrestling, started Noah, and now Noah kind of took the place of All Japan in the sphere of Japanese wrestling. 1, 2, 3, Nakajima pins Go Shiozaki. I was kind of surprised by that. I thought they were just going to put the belt back on him. and then Nakajima wins. So Nakajima is your heavyweight champion. We're going to see Nakajima in the Tokyo Dome as well. But we're going to get into that a little later. We're going to dive into Wrestle Kingdom a little later. But right now, we're going to be diving into WWE Day 1. I got all the matches ranked. RK Bro versus Street Profits, 6 out of 6. Madcap versus Drew, number 5 out of 6. Edge versus Miz, number 4. It was a good match, but it was pretty much a setup match, and setup matches, I like conclusions, I guess. So anytime it's just a setup match with Beth Phoenix running out, a good story. It's going to build to hopefully a mixed tag at WrestleMania. That's what I want to see. I want to see Edge and Miz in the Royal Rumble. They have a little schmaz, get eliminated, and then we get that big mixed tag match at WrestleMania, like the John Cena proposal, like Ronda Rousey teaming with Kurt Angle. It's always cool to have that spectacle mixed tag match at Mania, and I think Edge and Beth Phoenix versus Miz and Maurice is that match. So, what they're going to set up, I have high hopes for. The actual match, it gets in the middle of the pack. Liv versus Becky was pretty good. I thought they were going to put the title on Liv. I bought it, but you know what? Big Time Bex pulled it off. The Fatal 5-Way, number 2, great match. Love that Brock Lesnar style match, that Brock Lesnar main event, kind of like Goldberg main event-esque, but just crazier. But I noticed it, and then I was listening to Busted Open Radio. Bully Ray noticed it as well. He said that they stooged off the ending by having Brock come out last. I could totally agree. If you want Brock to feel important, maybe don't mention that he's going to be in the main event, and then have the bell ring, and then the music hits, and then announce that he's in the main event. Or have him come out first and announce that he's in the main event, just like you did at the beginning of the show. But the way they had it lined up, I think, did just kind of telegraph to everybody that Big E was going to lose. And then you had Big E get pinned, which I didn't agree with as well. You could have had Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens or Bobby Lashley or someone else get pinned other than Big E. Roll up MVP, roll up Michael Cole, do whatever. But Big E should have not been a part of that pin. I think you're kind of burying Big E just kind of like you buried Kofi. Not kind of like you buried Kofi, exactly like you buried Kofi by having Brock Lesnar beat him and then have him leave the title picture for what it looks like. They put the title on Brock, so now Brock is the world champ on Raw. Roman is the world champ on SmackDown. They could have a collision course at WrestleMania, or they could go a different route. I mean, Drew, they're kind of heating up Drew in this nothing storyline with Madcap Moss and Happy Corbin. You could always bring Drew up to wrestle Roman, but that kind of seems kind of more like a Backlash main event, a B-show main event. Maybe you could have one day Brock wrestles Bobby and then Roman wrestle The Rock, but I don't think The Rock is coming, especially if Omicron's kicking in and you're going to have a limited capacity at WrestleMania. I don't know. But let's go back to ranking the matches. Number 1, New Day versus Usos, the first match on the main card. This match is a match that I would watch over and over again. They're going to give it to us over and over again. I don't mind it. I saw people complaining online, but who cares? Who the fuck cares? I mean, Edge and Christian and the Hardy Boys wrestled over and over again. The Dudley Boys wrestled those teams over and over again. It doesn't matter. Just if it's good, just keep coming. Much like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. We saw them wrestle in Ring of Honor. You brought it to NXT. You brought it to WWE. You brought it to WrestleMania. Keep it coming. I want more. If it's good, it's going to be good every time, and it's great every time. New Day versus Usos was my favorite match in WWE Day 1. I like the concept of WWE Day 1. Have an afternoon pay-per-view January 1st, why not? Migos was there. It was cool to see Migos. I'm a Carolina Panther fan. I like Migos because they have, the song Dab on them. And when the Carolina Panthers were at their heyday in 2015 and 2016, Cam Newton was dabbing on everybody. So every time I see the Migos, I think about a Panthers touchdown, and it kind of warms my heart. Their music is okay, but I do kind of enjoy the hip-hop boy band vibe that they kind of bring. Maybe we'll get a little bit of a Bad Bunny out of them. Maybe we'll get some 6-man tag titles coming out of this, and we put it on Migos. I don't know. Didn't Bad Bunny have the 24/7 title at one point? Anything can happen in the World Wrestling Federation, including releasing a shit ton of people. We'll get into that in a little bit. NXT did New Year's Evil. I didn't watch it. Roderick Strong dropped the Cruiserweight title. Now the Cruiserweight title and the North American title are one. So 205 Live outlasted the Cruiserweight title. I would never have thought that would have happened. I thought when they brought the Cruiserweight title into NXT, they were going to dissolve 205 Live, but lo and behold, it's not live, and people wrestling on the show are mostly over 205, but the show is still called 205 Live, and the Cruiserweight title is no more. Now it's the North American title, or whatever the hell they're doing with it. I like Carmelo Hayes, so I don't mind too much. I think Roderick Strong is just happy he still has a job. And they put the title on Braun Breaker. They had Rick Steiner come out. Tommaso Ciampa dropped the title. What are you going to do with Tommaso Ciampa? Are you going to bring him up? Are you going to keep him there? I don't know. It looks like they're just going to release everybody that has anything to do with the old black and gold NXT, because they did another round of releases, believe it or not. Of those names, Gabe Sapolsky, the guy who started Evolve, who kind of gave Evolve up to the WWE Network for virtually no reason, helped start Evolve, helped start Ring of Honor, he's gone. George Carroll, gone, NXT writer. Ryan Katz, creative producer apparently, since 2015, he's gone. Dave Kapoor, apparently he managed the Great Khali at one point, I'm just reading this. Vice President of Creative, he's gone. Sarah Cummings, Senior Vice President, she's gone. Allison Danger, I remember her in Ring of Honor. Allison Danger, I always remember how the late great Dusty Rhodes would say her name. She was apparently signed. I didn't know that, but she's gone. Ace Steel, which is a big name in the history of pro wrestling, the guy who trained CM Punk, the guy who trained Colt Cabana, amongst many others, part of the Second City Saints, one of my first favorite Ring of Honor feuds, where it was CM Punk, Colt Cabana, and Ace Steel in a part of the Second City Saints against what did they call it? I forget. It was Christopher Daniels, Dan Moff, and BJ Whitmer were I can't remember their faction name. Please let me know in the comments below that faction name. But I love that shit. And so Ace Steel is gone. So maybe they could reform the Second City Saints in AEW. I doubt that with the history that we now know of Colt Cabana and CM Punk. But you know what? That would warm my little wrestling Mark heart. Scott Armstrong released. Referee, he'd been with the company, it says, I'm reading this now, since 2006. Of course, he was a wrestler in WCW, and of course, he is related to Road Dogg, who also got released. So are the Armstrongs going to reform in Impact? Is DX going to reform? Are they going to both join the Gun Club in AEW? What's going to happen with this? I think that's foolish to release Road Dogg. You got X-Pac in the Indies. He says he's ready for in-ring return. I hope to see him in the Royal Rumble, but why not? Why not bring DX to AAA? Why not bring DX to Impact again? The Voodoo Kin Mafia. You could do so much with this, and he has a great mind, and he can talk people into the building. Don't forget about his amazing promos. So I don't know why you would release him. And then we're going to go into even more puzzling release. William Regal. His initial run ended in 1999, and then he came back in 2000, and he's been in the company since then, been with NXT since 2014. And of course, he's been, the general manager of NXT. We know him for saying the word War Games. We know him as in the Blue Bloods. Why the hell would you release this guy? He's a wealth of knowledge. He knows multiple different styles of wrestling. He could teach multiple different styles of wrestling. Great promo. Great general manager. Like, just for his character, the last few years has been amazing. Forget about his long lineage in the actual wrestling industry as a wrestler. I have no fucking clue why they release him. Yeah, just running down some of his accolades. Apparently, yeah, tag team champion, intercontinental champion, European champion, hardcore champion, king of the ring. I think he was television champion in WCW. It's just and tag team champion in WCW. Just ridiculous release here. I get it. He was a part of this Triple H regime. The rumors is that they're releasing all these guys from the Triple H regime, and they're going into this new NXT 2.0. But I would find a spot for this man in NXT 2.0. He was a great mind for the business and a great character. Another puzzling release. For the second time Samoa Joe is released, he put out a statement: extremely fortunate and grateful to all the young and amazing talent I had the pleasure of working with in the past months. Only saddened at the loss of an excuse to see their continued growth and achievement. I'm very excited for their future. ... And mine. Upside down smiley face. I'm not really sure what that means from Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe, a man, dare I say, maybe too old to use emojis. That was unexpected emoji out of the Samoa Joe here. But he got released. What a dumb fucking decision. The story writes itself. Braun Breaker, the new NXT champion, versus the guy who had to relinquish the NXT title before Tommaso Ciampa got it. So just, if you're gonna release him, have him lose to your champion on his way out, just so you can re-solidify Braun Breaker even more. Samoa Joe, great promo. I'm sure him and Braun Breaker would have a great match, great promo battle together. It makes no fucking sense why you would release Samoa Joe once, but twice in like a year and a half. It makes no fucking sense. I'm getting heated. I'm getting upset. These releases are pissing me off. We're going to have to move on. Something that's not pissing me off: Wrestle Kingdom. Wrestle Kingdom, if you didn't know, New Japan's WrestleMania, New Japan's Triple Mania, the biggest show in Japanese wrestling every year. 2 years ago, they made it a 2-night spectacle. And we usually see like a few match of the year candidates out of this show. This year, I don't think we got that. I don't think we got a match of the year candidate. I do think we got some top fives, though. Honestly, it was long, and we'll get to it. A really cool video package to open the show. We saw Inoki, still pushing Inoki after all these years. Cool to see. Hopefully Inoki comes out for the 50th anniversary. We can only hope. They're setting the stages for night one, rolling down all the matches. They announced that New Japan will be returning to American television, Access TV again, March 3rd, right after Impact. I didn't like Hiromu Takahashi's shorts. They look kind of goofy. They always try to bring out something new, something cool for Wrestle Kingdom, and I thought that I like his long tights with the mesh at the bottom, but the shorts with the mesh at the knee were a little too goofy, even for Hiromu, for my opinion, but that's nitpicky. I did like Okada's classic robe. Apparently in Japanese, it had like the history of the title. It had the history of Okada all engraved on it. It was cool, white and gold, old school, wrestling attire coming out to the ring. Of course, Okada had the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. Shingo had the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, and that was the main event of night one. I'm just going to spoil it. After Okada won, Ospreay shows up. They do a little schmaz here, and I really like how they kind of set up a little bit, kind of the nuanced notes of setting up night one and night two. I enjoy it. They do that much better in Wrestle Kingdom than they do WrestleMania, where it's kind of like two nights are kind of different things, where night one kind of did set up a little bit for night two. Okada gets the mic and says, "I'm sorry," and then he says, "Fake champ, see you tomorrow." Boom. You don't really need to say too much in English if what you say in English hits that hard, and it hit hard for me. Night two, the first 2 hours were skippable tag matches. So that kind of didn't make it feel like Wrestle Kingdom, but it was Wrestle Kingdom. It was in that big Tokyo Dome atmosphere. Noah shows up. which is a big deal. Um, Warring factions under one front, as Chris Charlton said. I thought that was well worded. A lot better worded than how it looked. It kind of had that Survivor Series feel where everyone just kind of had a t-shirt on for the show they were on. It would have been cooler if they had maybe like one faction show up night one and one faction show up night two, because Kino had most of the mic time. Muda had a little bit of the mic time. So if you're just going to have those two guys cut promos, just have their respective factions show up. LIJ came out. They put over Shingo, but they said they didn't know who Hiromu Takahashi or Bushi was, which is ridiculous. Of course, they know who those guys are. And that's the next show. It's called Wrestle Kingdom, but I'm not going to consider it Wrestle Kingdom. That's kind of like a New Year's Dash that they're not really calling New Year's Dash. It's a different thing that they're calling Wrestle Kingdom. Noah versus New Japan. Two great tastes that we're going to find out if they taste great together. They did do a like old guy New Japan versus young upstart Noah thing a few years ago when I first started watching New Japan, but that was like a mid-card angle where it looks like this, if it becomes more than this show, which I hope it will be, has all hands on deck. You know, we're going to see a tag match involving Muda versus Tanahashi, respectively, on respective teams. So this one kind of titillates my interest a little more, but not necessarily the card. The card is a lot of tag matches. And just like I said with the beginning half of night 2 of Wrestle Kingdom, the tag matches kind of take away that big fight feel, in my opinion, unless it's like a world tag title match. The day kind of dragged, but I did kind of enjoy it a little more than night 1 for some reason. I'm not really too sure. They're both very good. The main event, when Will Ospreay came out, he had the Warriors of Wrestling title. He had the Rev Pro title, kind of indicating that, you know, his hiatus from New Japan Pro Wrestling, when he left the title vacant, and he went around claiming he was the real world champion, which he did technically never lose the title, and he scooped up every title he could from all these different countries. And I think, you know, these smaller companies said, yeah, be our champion and wear that title out at Wrestle Kingdom, which is what he did. I'm sure a lot of Japanese fans were wondering what that wild looking title from Warriors of Wrestling was all about, but he had it on, and it didn't do him any good. Okada beat him in the main event of night 2 as well, and then after that, Nido comes out, and it looks like Okada versus Naido will take place in 2022. I remember, I think it was 2018 or 2019, I can't remember, but a few years ago, Okada versus Naido, the last one night affair of Wrestle Kingdom, Okada versus Nido was the main event, and I was working at a restaurant at the time, and it just felt like New Japan was at this peak where there was 3 or 4 guys that I could talk about New Japan with at the restaurant I worked at, and usually once a week there was like someone who would come in that knew about, you know, New Japan. They would have an LIJ hat or, you know, a Bullet Club shirt or something like that. And I remember I was like the only Okada fan. Everyone wanted Nido to win, and Okada won again. But so the idea of Nido versus Okada excites me more so than many feuds that they could do. And Nido, you know, he was the world champion at the beginning of the pandemic. He tried to put over Evil, but no one really likes Evil. And, you know, he got injured during the G1 after having an amazing match with Zack Sabre Jr. So he's kind of been a little bit out of commission. Nido hasn't been as Nido as Nido can be in 2021. So coming into 2022, hopefully he's healed up and he's ready to go. We don't have Ibushi in New Japan. He's still licking his wounds. So Nido versus Okada and this Noah feud could have us forget about that. Of course, you guys know I'm going to rank every single match from Wrestle Kingdom worst to first. That's right, all 19 matches ranked from worst to first. And worst, 19 out of 19, is Evil versus Ishii. This was a never openweight championship match. When I first started watching New Japan, I remember Ishii versus Makabe. I remember Shibata versus Ishii. I remember Ibushi versus Ospreay. The Tokyo Dome Wrestle Kingdom never openweight championship match had been classics since I can remember, since I know and then here it is, Evil versus Ishii. It was just nothing but a bunch of bullshit. Evil, it runs this faction, House of Terror, and they get involved kind of like the NWO used to get involved, kind of like the Bullet Club always gets involved. It's a subsect of Bullet Club, but it just leads to bad matches. It's kind of a tired angle, and to have it, take place in the Tokyo Dome, where we didn't get a never openweight championship match. It would be one thing if this was a match and then the never openweight championship was a match, but that wasn't the case. So I can't believe we gave up an Ishii Tokyo Dome match for this bullshit. So that's why it sits at 19. Number 18, honestly, 18 through like 13 are all interchangeable, but 18 is Goto, Yoshihashi, and Yo versus Sho, Yujiro, and Evil from night 2. Evil picking up the bottom 2 matches, in my opinion. 17, Makabe, Hanma, and Nagata versus Fale, Gato, and Jado. I mean, that was the curtain jerker of night 2. It wasn't good, it wasn't bad. That's why, it's not the worst match, but it's right there. Tanahashi, Rocky Romero, and Taguchi versus Ishimori, Kenta, and LP. It sits at number 16, but it was kind of a short match, and it was just a setup for a match that I found really interesting, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Number 15, the Stardom tag. It was really good, quick pace, tag match, but it was placed as 5th or 6th tag match in a row on this show, so I was kind of worn out of tag matches, and I don't watch Stardom as closely as I watch New Japan or Noah, so I wasn't as into it. I wish this would have kicked off the show. Number 14, Wado, Master Wado, Tenzan, and Kojima versus Desperado, Kinemaru, and Taka. I think I put this at 14 above the Stardom tag match solely because of Taka Michinoku. I'm still a mark for him after all these years. Saw him in 1997 on WWF, so sign me up. I'm stoked for him now. That was night 2. Number 13, Ospreay, Cobb, and Okan versus Sanada, Bushi, and Naito from night 1. This was good because it was a 6-man tag on night 1. There wasn't as many 6-man tags on night 1, and we also got to see the setup of Nido and Cobb. We got to see Ospreay being a dick, setting up his match for night 2, so it kind of was a good setup, and it wasn't bad, so it sits at number 13. Number 12, Sho and Yo. I was really excited about this match, but it was too quick. I wanted to see a spread out match. And I think that they were involved in the 6-man tag the next night, which I thought was kind of backwards. So I really, that's why it sits at 12, didn't crack the top 10. Another match that didn't crack the top 10, Sonata versus Great-O-Khan. A very good match, but this is Wrestle Kingdom, guys. You need to do a lot to crack the top 10. And sitting in the middle of the pack, this match usually gets a lot of flack. The New Japan Rambo, which is pretty much like the New Japan Rumble. It kicks off the Tokyo Dome card, Wrestle Kingdom, every year. But this match was full of fucking legends. Let's just talk a little bit about this match because it was pretty fun. Chase Owens and Hinare kick things off. And then we have the Young Lions, Fujita and Nakashinari. Hopefully I'm saying these right. They come out, the 2 Young Lions, strike battle with Hinare. And then Owina, another Young Lion, delivering a gut wrench to Chase, which is kind of cool. And then we had Master Wato, Tenzan, Suzuki, Kojima, Taka Michinoku all coming out. And then I'm like, okay, hell yeah. And then CIMA. This was pretty cool to see CIMA come out. Of Dragon Gate fame, Ring of Honor fame, WCW fame even. But not really a New Japan star. Nice surprise. Hanma, Dookie, Nagata all coming out. This was cool. Kinemaru comes out with the whiskey. That was cool. Makabe, Bad Luck Fale, and then Fujinami. he's been wrestling for 50 years. He was in the very first New Japan match in 1972, and here he is coming out at Wrestle Kingdom. Toru Yano comes out. Suzuki, Sema, Yano, and Chase Owens are the final four combatants. So they move on to a four-way match at night 2. I guess I didn't have that ranked, so I'll just combine these two matches. Suzuki ends up winning the King of Pro Wrestling Championship match. Fun little spots in night 2. I guess I forgot about it when I was doing my rankings, so we'll just add that all together to not mess up my shit, because it sits at number 10. Number 9 was actually a 6-man tag. Taichi, Zack Sabre Jr., and Duki versus Hiromu, Bushi, and Shingo in night 2. They re-solidified Shingo as a champion. He did lose, his title night 1, but unlike WWE with Big E, they didn't have him lose 2 nights in a row. They didn't have him lose at WWE Day 1 and then on Raw to Bobby Lashley. They had him lose to Okada, and then they had him get kind of his heat back in night 2 with not only getting the win back, but coming up and confronting Noah. That's kind of how I hoped they would start booking Big E in WWE, but, Shingo and Big E are different, and WWE and New Japan are different. Unfortunately. Number 8, LP and Ishimori versus Rocky and Taguchi versus Robbie Eagles and Tiger Mask, the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship match. This was great. Quick, fast-paced action. I thought the titles were going to change hands, but it stayed with Robbie Eagles and Tiger Mask. Tiger Mask 4, or 5, sorry. 4 or 5, who knows? I guess a lot of people know, but I can't remember. An old-timer. You'd think he would be in the Rambo. You'd think he would be early on in the card, but here he is, retaining his title at Wrestle Kingdom Night 2. That was kind of cool. Number 7. Hopefully this isn't as controversial as I think it would be, but number 7 is Shibata versus Narita. Shibata, 2016, won the New Japan Cup, wrestled Okada, lost to Okada, one of my favorite pro wrestling matches ever. But the residual effects of that match left him paralyzed. He regained strength, regained mobility, was the trainer at the LA Dojo, which pretty much means he trained a lot of the people you see at New Japan Strong. He trained Ren Narita, who he wrestled at night 1. And it was just an amazing thing to see him just come out. And he grabbed the mic. It was supposed to be kind of an exhibition. He grabbed the mic and said it's going to be a full-on match. He wrestled stiff as fuck. He won. It was kind of hard to tell the difference between Narita and Shibata at the time. They do wear the same tights, and they do have the same hairstyle. But the master beat the student. Shibata won. It was more of a feel-good moment than one of the better matches on the cards. But it was a really, really good match. Number 6, Nido versus Cobb. It's crazy to see Cobb just tossing people around. He's improved so much. People always ask me who's the most improved of 2021, and I didn't mention Cobb until I saw this match, and I was like, you know what, it might be Cobb. I remember Cobb in the 2020 G1 was kind of a letdown. The Cobb in the 2021 G1 was kind of a nice surprise, and he's been a nice surprise. I think being a part of the Evil Empire is something that he could sink his teeth into, and something he's enjoyed being a part of, and you can see it in his wrestling. It's kind of like the Cobb of 2018 is re-woken up. The Cobb we used to see in Ring of Honor get hella over. The Cobb that we saw in AEW against Moxley is kind of re-emerged. Here he's found his footing. He's comfortable, and I think he's going to suplex the shit out of people in 2022. I'm excited to see it. But it didn't crack the top 5. Number 5, Tanahashi versus Kanta. This is a hardcore match. Tanahashi's never been a part of these. They start out with kendo sticks bashing each other. They get chairs involved. I remember Tanahashi did a moonsault. Kenta rolled out of the way. He eats shit on the chairs. Kenta sets up this ladder. It takes him a long time to set up the ladder, which is the gif and the video that I've seen being posted all around. But it's really a shame, because once he did set up the ladder, first of all, the ladder was this ridiculous, you had to screw the parts of the ladder in. I've never seen a ladder like this, so maybe Kenta's never seen a ladder like this either. But he climbs to the top of this ladder. And then Tanahashi kind of gets out of it and starts shaking the ladder back and forth. This ladder's pretty tall in the air. It looks like it looked at one moment that he would spill onto the floor, maybe over the guardrail. But Kenta does fall off and face first on this trash can, busts his face all up bloody. Tanahashi wins the match, but you can visibly see that Tanahashi's a little worried of Kenta, even in victory, holding the IWGP US Championship. Remember when Kenny Omega finally won this thing? People were happy that Kenny Omega dropped it because they didn't want a title like that on someone like Kenny Omega. Over the last few years, they've done a great job with, Juice Robinson and Cody all holding this title, to the point where now Tanahashi won in the Tokyo Dome, and it was a spectacle of a match. First time ever seeing Tanahashi in a match like this. Really cool to see. Hope Kenta's face is okay. I'm not fucking sure, but that's number 5. Number 4, Hiromu versus El Desperado. I was slightly disappointed in this match. I thought this match would have been probably the best match out of all nights. It was short. 20 minutes or so. And, I mean, when I'm really looking at these Wrestle Kingdom spectacles, I'm looking at these long epics. But they went back and forth. Desperado won the title. Hiromu was kind of an afterthought after leaving Wrestle Kingdom, which kind of was a bummer for me. He's, in my opinion, a huge star, but I think El Desperado came and kind of took that ball from him in what I would consider a few years ago his division. But El Desperado, through having great matches with Hiromu, kind of took that ball from Hiromu. He's the IWGP Junior Tag Champion, or he's in that picture. He's generally an IWGP Junior Tag Champion with Kanemaru, but now he's the IWGP Heavyweight Champion, or IWGP Junior Champion. And I'm excited for him. He's one of my favorites. I really didn't like Desperado until he started having these great matches with Hiromu. And that's why it sits at number 4. Number 3, Goto and Yoshihashi versus Dangerous Tekkers. Apparently, this might be Dangerous Tekkers' last match. Goto and Yoshihashi got the victory. This was great. Honestly, 4 and 3 could be interchangeable. I wouldn't ever hear, I wouldn't think you were crazy if you thought one was better than the other, but I just like the tag match. They were both pretty quick, and just, I guess, the element of 4 guys in the ring having a great match kind of outdid 2 guys in the ring having a great match. But number 1 and 2 belong to Okada. This was Okada's fucking show, baby. Okada versus Shingo of night 2. Let's break it down. Shingo sends Okada to the floor in the first big turning point of the match. Huge angle back suplex. 1-2, Okada kicks out. Shingo stays on him, trying to wear Okada down. Okada gets the upper hand. DDT. 1-2, Shingo kicks out. Okada jumping over the rail. Classic Wrestle Kingdom crossbody from Okada. You love to see it. Missile drop kick. 1-2, Shingo kicks out. Money clip. Shingo tries to break free. Okada locks it in again. Okada goes for the Rainmaker. Shingo counters. Pumping bomber. Shingo flexes on him. Okada loses his cool a bit. Rare to see this. Pace quickens even more. Strike battle. Both men down. They battle up the ramp. Okada gets in right at the 20 count. Shingo in control firmly. Made in Japan 1-2. Okada kicks out. Another one. 1-2. Okada kicks out again. Shingo getting really frustrated here. Pumping bomber. 1-2. Okada kicks out yet again. Okada breaks free from the pumping bomber with a Rainmaker. Both men down. Strike battle. This was crazy to see. They start on their knees here, and then as they're punching each other, they rise to their feet. DDT off the top from Okada. Both men down again. Dropkick, Rainmaker, 1-2-3. Okada gets the victory. Night 1 of Wrestle Kingdom. If you didn't know the storyline here, all 3 men were saying that they were the world champion. Shingo with the lineage, because Ospreay had to vacate the championship because of issues with his shoulder, issues with his with COVID in Japan and everything like that, and Okada, synonymous with the old championship, the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, not the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. After he won the G1, he started carrying around the old title. He said that title was the best. Here he is beating Shingo. He praises the old title and then puts on the new title. And then night 2, we have Okada, the champion. But in many fans' eyes and in Ospreay's eyes, as Ospreay is the champion, he never lost a title. He's running around the world, taking all these championships from everybody. He's claiming he's the world champion. Who is the world champion? Who is the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion? We find out in night 2. We find out in the very best match of Wrestle Kingdom 2022. Ospreay slowly gains momentum as they both go to the floor. Okada, feeling the effects from the match, the night before, but finds himself with the upper hand at the 10-minute mark. Ospreay with a moonsault off this lighting rig. This was kind of a callback from when he was a junior heavyweight in this crazy fatal 4-way match with Kushida, Hiromu Takahashi, someone who can't be mentioned, Marty Skrull, and Ospreay, where he did a big moonsault off the lighting rig in that match. Really cool to see. When they come back into the ring, Ospreay hits a Sasuke special, but it's countered by Okada kind of catching him. Tombstone on the floor. Missile dropkick 1, 2. Ospreay kicks out. Ospreay kind of controlling the momentum here, trying to take Okada down. Okada going for a Hurricane Rana, but Ospreay stops and turns it into a sit-down powerbomb. I thought that was an amazing spot. Shooting star 1-2. Okada kicks out. Ospreay getting a little frustrated here. Okada hits a Stormbreaker. Ospreay's big move 1-2. Kick out. I just wrote, damn, that was crazy. Rainmaker countered by a Spanish Fly by Ospreay. Reading that doesn't do it justice. That was an insane spot. A Stormbreaker countered by a Tombstone by Okada. Rainmaker 1-2. Ospreay kicks out. Ospreay goes for the Rainmaker. Both men down. They strike battle, build up to their feet. Ospreay back elbow 1-2. Okada kicks out. He is pissed off now. Ospreay doesn't know what to do. But we all know what's going to happen here. Rainmaker, boom, 1, 2, 3. Okada gets the victory in Wrestle Kingdom. All is right in the world. Everything makes sense. Nido comes out. We already saw Noah earlier that night. I'm pretty excited. This wasn't the Wrestle Kingdom of old. Making it two nights and then kind of making it 3 nights is stretching it out a bit too much. But what are you going to do? You got to do something in 2022. The visa issue is all messed up. You're dealing with a limited roster. You're trying to bring in a whole other roster in Noah. I'm excited for 2022. I think this is the year that New Japan gets back on their feet. 2015 to 2018 was huge years for New Japan. 2019 and 2020 kind of went into a down period, but I think it's going to come up in 2022. We're going to be talking about AEW Dynamite. We're going to be talking about AEW Rampage. We're going to be talking about Noah versus New Japan next week. Hopefully you guys are still with me here. As always, fly high. I'm out.